Hello and welcome back to the podcast. I am so grateful that you are here and I am so excited to chat about my hot girl tips for making 2025 the best year yet. And I know when you end a year and you're starting a new year, online there can be so much information and so much to consume about the whole new year, new me, and all of the things that you could possibly implement to making change and making the new year this incredible, next level, unrecognizable year for you. And as much as I love that content and I am in part making some content like that, I also understand how overwhelming it can be to have so many options and so many ways that you can completely transform your life. And sometimes having so many options can be the most difficult thing because you don't know where to start, you don't know what's right for you. And so I wanted to create my own kind of version of that through this podcast episode. But I wanted to share with you, first of all, that we are creatures of all or nothing. And what I mean by that, as humans, I think that we naturally fall into this category of like all of it and every single thing all at once, or nothing. Like we go the complete other way. And so, as you're listening to this podcast episode, I would love for you to just start listening with open ears and see what maybe tasks or habits or tips resonate with you, and potentially what is the one thing that you could implement in your life. And I see the most success in my clients when they take on one new habit or one new tool and then they implement that, they get really good at that, and then they add another one. So instead of sitting here and listening to this podcast and implementing 10 things at once, which will become overwhelming to your nervous system and ultimately result in you probably dropping the ball and reverting back to your old habits, I recommend and would love for you to implement just one thing. See how that goes in the process of changing your routine or your habits. Maybe allow it to flow for 28, 30 days and then add in another one and then keep going like that. And slowly throughout the new year, you will be able to add in more changes that actually last. Because it's all good and well at the start of the year or the start of the new month or week to say that you're going to do all of these things. You're going to go to the gym 5 times a week. You're going to not have caffeine at all during the week, or whatever your goal might be to the extreme. And then you end up doing that for 1 or 2 days. You feel absolutely exhausted or burnt out or out of routine. And then you end up either reverting back to your old habits or going backwards, and it actually being less productive than if you had just maybe gone to the gym once a week or cut out coffee for 1 day. So as you're listening, as I mentioned, don't go all or nothing like I have done many times. Let's try one thing together and see how that goes. Now, when I'm talking about this, they're not in any particular order. They're just the tools or habits or rituals that I have collected along my journey, and ones that I honestly think have made such a huge difference. And I'm talking about these hot girl tips and tricks through the lens of your soul, your body, and also your mind. So I want to talk about it in terms of your mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual health, because I think that often when people approach these sorts of topics, especially professionals, they talk about it a lot from your physical body and your mental body, but not often through your energetic or spiritual body and also your emotional well-being. So I want to approach these tips and tricks by covering a few from all of the categories. So take what resonates, obviously tune into your body, what feels good for you, trial it. Maybe you won't connect with it, or maybe it will be the one thing that actually makes a huge difference in your life. So the first thing that I want to share with you guys is auditing your life. So, looking at what people or places or experiences or what parts of your life actually drain you. So, when you leave work or a person or a physical location, are you feeling absolutely depleted, like somebody has sucked the life out of you? Or are you feeling super energetic and refilled and you're feeling like you could conquer the world? And this might be a really tough one to either look at because maybe some of the people that are closest to you actually drain you, or maybe it is a job that you're currently in, or maybe it's your dream career or business that you thought was the thing that you were working towards and the thing that was going to make you super happy. And so maybe it's actually confronting to realize that it's not actually going to make you happy long term. Or it might be difficult because sometimes this energy, this feeling of somebody draining your energy or something draining your energy can be quite subtle, and you might just feel tired or have a headache or just feel a little bit off after being with that person or in that place. So I want you to get really curious and just start looking at, where are you your happiest and where are you feeling the most drained? And you don't have to necessarily cut that person or that thing out of your life. And again, coming back to that all or nothing energy, it's not like you acknowledge that and then you never speak to that person again. But it's just about having that awareness and thinking, for some reason at this point in time, this person or this place or this thing actually isn't filling up my cup, actually isn't making me feel really good. So I'm going to limit my time with that person or in that place or in that role. Or potentially, if it is something like a job, maybe you start looking at your options. And I think it's so easy to fall into this cycle and this programming of, oh, everyone's miserable at work, or, oh, that's just how this person is, like that's just their personality, or, oh, we've been friends for years, like that's just what it's like. It's actually like, it actually doesn't have to be that way. No matter how old you are, or no matter how long you've been with somebody or friends with somebody or in a role, you always have the option to make a change, and to make a change to better your life and also your well-being. So start acknowledging and start bringing awareness to these things that have potentially just been autopilot part of your life. You know, you've been in this role forever, you've been friends with that person forever, it becomes a natural part of your life and your routine. But actually bringing awareness to the part that maybe isn't in alignment can really change how you feel and bring awareness to where you maybe need to make some change or reevaluate parts of your life. So, auditing your life. And then my next little hot girl tip, which naturally kind of leads on from that, is auditing your social media or doing a social media detox. So for me, before I had my Instagram, A Touch of Clarity, I was following on my personal page everybody. Didn't really matter. Celebrities, people from school, people I haven't spoke to in years. I would just follow everyone and didn't really care about the exposure that I had through social media or what I was consuming on a daily basis. And when I launched my business and also my social media for the business, I started through that platform following more like-minded people. So people that inspired me, people that were in the same type of work, people that actually wanted to work on themselves. So that was what they were sharing. And so for me, social media became this really beautiful space to be in because a lot of the posts were about self-development and they were very inspiring and motivational. And I don't use my personal Instagram at all anymore, but I keep it more so for the memories that I have on the grid. But when I briefly or rarely switch over to that personal account, I am flooded with so much that actually makes me go? And from that space, I got even more clear on my Instagram account that I predominantly use. Who do I want to follow? What are the types of accounts that I want to see? Is this actually in alignment with the life that I am wanting to live? So not only did I do a social media detox and audit, but I also looked at why I was using social media. So obviously a huge part of my business and connecting with you guys is through social media. And a lot of the ways that I market is through social media. So that was a huge part of it. But also I would catch myself doom scrolling late at night, comparing myself to other creators on that platform. And I had to get really clear with myself. What is my intention when I am using this app? Is it to connect with like-minded people? Is it to be inspired? Or am I doom scrolling to avoid reality? Am I numbing from something that I'm going through? And is it a way for me to just be a couch potato, rot in bed, and not actually face the things that I was feeling? And so I invite you to do a similar thing. Just start noticing as you're scrolling on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook or whatever the many apps may be, what is your intention right now with this scroll? Sometimes the best medicine, I think, is actually just zoning out and scrolling. And so maybe you set a timer for 30 minutes and you do that. But if social media is becoming something that you just automatically click on when you're replying to a text and then you end up sitting on TikTok for 45 minutes, start acknowledging that, start facing that and asking yourself why. What is it that you're trying to avoid while you're doom scrolling? And once you kind of get clear on that, and maybe social media is something that feels really good for you and that's amazing, then I would start looking at what are the accounts that you're following. Are they, again, filling up your cup, motivating you, inspiring you, or are they draining you? Are you going into a deep dive rabbit hole of all of these conspiracy theories, or maybe you're getting caught up in Hollywood drama, which I know is going on quite a lot at the moment. And if you are spending a lot of time on social media, how can you also habit stack that with something that is good for you? So for example, I say to my clients, if you are happy with screen time first thing in the morning, because we know that that's quite a big thing that a lot of health and well-being providers and practitioners suggest, is no screen time for at least 15 to 20 minutes when you first wake up. But if for you, waking up and leisurely, rolling out of bed and staying on Instagram for a while feels really good, maybe that's what you need. But what I would suggest is maybe pairing that with a nervous system regulation habit, which is laying flat on the floor with your legs up the wall. So you're like an L shape like this, and you're laying up, your legs are up against the wall, and this will help regulate your nervous system. So it will help drop you into your parasympathetic response first thing in the morning. So yes, maybe you're scrolling on social media, but it's also paired with a really beautiful activity that's going to drop you into your rest and digest or activate your parasympathetic nervous system, which is where we want to be first thing in the morning. So next, I wanted to talk about what you're consuming in general. So what music, TV shows, movies, text messages, again, social media, news outlets, what are you consuming on a daily basis, and how can you potentially adapt that to being something that is more supportive for you? So for example, I listen to a lot of high frequency music when I'm studying or working, and especially when I fall asleep. So if at a bare minimum, all I have done for myself today is listen to some high frequency music, then at least I've attuned my energy body during the day or when I sleep at night. And sometimes I am absolutely exhausted that's actually all I have space and time for, is listening to a sleep track on YouTube while I have a really beautiful sleep. So looking at what you're consuming physically through music, TV, and social media, but also what are you consuming from other people? So I had a conversation with a really beautiful friend a couple days ago, and it got me thinking. She was talking about how she's relocated to Adelaide and she's finding it quite hard to connect with like-minded people in her sort of age and also going through the same sort of stage of life as she is. And we got talking and connecting over how when you're going through a self-development journey or a period of healing and you're trying to better yourself and you're going to classes and you're maybe seeing a therapist and doing all the things, you notice so quickly the people that aren't working on themselves because they thrive in gossiping about other people, complaining about their life, not actively making a change, not doing classes or therapy or meditation or all of these things that you can do to make yourself feel better. They're binge eating, binge watching Netflix. They're doing all of these things that actually aren't helping their well-being. And we spoke a lot about how it can be difficult to find those people that are into the same sorts of things, but when you do, you can sit and have the most profound, inspiring, and motivational conversations where you leave and this person has expanded you and opened up your awareness and shown you different parts of yourself or allowed you to see different parts of them, and that connection is so beautiful. And I was saying that the more that I am stepping into teaching and building community, the more that I am finding I'm having like these really deep chats. And then when I go back to other people in my life or potentially older friends or older people, as in like people I've been friends with for a really long time, it can be really hard to then drop back into the surface level complaining and moaning and not wanting to work on yourself. And I think when you are actively working on yourself and actively doing the work, it can then feel so draining to have people around you that aren't. And it's not about making them feel bad that they're not in a stage of their life where they are working on themselves, or having this like superior complex that you are doing the work. But it's just something to acknowledge. Like when you're hanging out with your friends or your family or your partner, what's the conversation like? Are you bringing new information to the table? Are you challenging each other? Are you inspiring each other? Or are you just sitting there complaining about your life and your partners and your work and not actively making a change? So as well as auditing your social media and your work and all of the things, also look at what are you consuming and also what are you contributing to people's lives. Are you the person that's complaining, or are you the person that's talking about a podcast you listen to or a course that you're doing or sharing that you're going on a retreat or whatever it might be? So the next one is moving your body and finding out what movement is medicine for you. I went through a stage in my life where I thought that I had to go to like a traditional gym, and I thought that I had to run on the treadmill and lift heavy weights and, do all of the traditional workout sort of vibes. And I realized for me that actually didn't feel good for my body. Like exposing my body to artificial lights first thing in the morning and sending my body straight into fight or flight actually didn't feel good, and actually didn't, it was like counterproductive for what I was trying to achieve, right? So last year, especially towards the end of the year, I spent a lot of time finding out what it meant for me when I said something like, what medicine is for my body, what movement is my medicine. And I found that dancing and shaking and that more somatic kind of practices, that felt really good. So if I woke up and I didn't feel that good in my body, then I would spend the first 20 minutes shaking and moving and stomping and dancing. And that felt really, really good for me. And then I also found yoga and stretching, whether it was on a YouTube channel or whether it was in person at a class, was really good for me. It was very gentle and allowed me to drop into my body and also wake up in a really beautiful, soft, nurturing way, instead of straight away into that more masculine energy of go, 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 lift heavy, run, 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 all of that kind of thing. And then more recently, over the last few, I would say, months, I have started Pilates. So obviously Pilates is quite a trending kind of movement at the moment, especially on TikTok. And I ended up scoring a reformer machine from Kmart. I think it was like $240 or something like that. And it has been so good for me to be able to search up YouTube channels and do a really beautiful Pilates reformer class at home. And even though Pilates is very challenging, and I think people underestimate, if you haven't done Pilates, how much of a challenge it can be. But for me, doing that at home was really beautiful because I could move with my body and do it in a way that felt really supportive for what I needed at that time. So a little hot girl tip is, don't conform to what you think you have to do for your body. So don't think that you have to run, or you have to lift heavy, or you have to do Pilates, or whatever, for you. Figure out what actually makes you feel good. And a lot of that comes into connecting to your body and actually opening up a dialogue with your body, realizing what makes you feel good and what doesn't make you feel good. And with that connection piece to your body, my next hot girl tip is slowing down and actually learning how to listen to your body. And I think this is a big one, especially for us women. We have been so conditioned through society to not listen to our body. Each month we go through a week or so of having pains and aches and headaches and, needing to slow down. But we live in a society that actually isn't structured that way. So we take the pain relief, we power on, and we push through. And that disconnect from our cycle and our body has created a lot of further disconnects within our body. So something that I am still practicing actively is tuning into my cycle and working with the inner seasons of my body and actually tracking my cycle. I use an Aura ring, which is a smart ring. I highly recommend. It's a bit of an investment, but it has been just incredible for me because it tracks your cycle through your body temperature. So obviously our bodies change from month to month. We might not be super regular, whereas the Aura ring is something that I have found tracks it specifically based off of the feedback from your body. But maybe you don't have an Aura ring or don't want to invest, I would recommend downloading a free app for your cycle. I use Flow as well, and I manually track my cycle through that. And I have now got to a stage where I am scheduling things in the weeks that I know I'm ovulating. On my luteal phase, I will pull back, or when I know that I will be PMSing, I will pull back and I'll do more things that I know I can do from bed or from my office, where I'm not actually exerting too much energy or being social. It's more inwards, and I am more slowing down and giving my body that extra bit of rest. And with that, even if you're not a person who experiences cycles, I think we all go through seasons of our life anyway, where you might be in a season where you feel really social and you have abilities to, be extroverted and loud and energetic. Or maybe you're in a season of your life where you want to be a home bird and you want to connect back in with yourself and you want to stay home and watch movies or, cook at home, whatever. I think we, again, as a society, have been taught directly and indirectly that that's not okay, that something's wrong if we don't want to go out partying all the time, or something's wrong if we don't feel energetic all the time. But we are not robots, right? There's going to be times when we don't actually want to be extroverted and around people. So it's about slowing down and listening to your body. And this can even be in subtle ways of what foods make your body feel good. For me at the moment, I am realizing that dairy actually doesn't make my body feel good. So I'm limiting that consumption. Maybe for you, caffeine doesn't make you feel good. So maybe you switch to decaf. Like there's lots of ways that our body tries to communicate to us that we often don't actually listen to as well. So slowing down, connecting to your body and also to the inner seasons, especially if you are a woman and you go through a cycle, is honoring that and giving your body what it needs. So the next one might sound a little simple and a little silly, but honestly, I have so many clients that don't even give themselves this, and it is your basic needs. So, giving yourself enough water every single day, eating regular meals that fuel your body and make you feel good, getting enough sleep, showering. Like, I know that I shouldn't be saying this, but honestly, showering is a huge one, especially energetically. It washes away the day. Or things like doing your teeth, flossing, right? Washing your hair regularly. Like, I know that I shouldn't have to say these things, but to some people, when they are in a rut, whether that's through depression or anxiety or just going through a stage of their life where they don't have the energy, these basic things are the first things that go. Movement, again, like going for a walk. Like there's a reason that it is so heavily promoted to exercise or at least get your 10,000 steps in. It's because it actually helps your physical health and also your mental and emotional health as well. So are you even giving yourself those basic needs of safety, of water, of food, of enough sleep? Start looking at that. And maybe if you're listening to this thinking, oh, I actually don't drink enough water, I actually don't get enough sleep, maybe that is your first priority, starting at the basics, getting a handle over that, and then moving into one of these more maybe challenging tips that I've shared. The next one is, what are you avoiding that is weighing you down? Now, this might be something that is through your mental and emotional health. So maybe there's some unprocessed traumas, or maybe there's something that you've done or experienced or gone through that you're avoiding and actually not processing or moving through. But it could also be something as basic as, for me, going to the dentist for my clean and checkup. Like it's something that's been on my mind for the last couple months, and I keep going, I need to book in just for a checkup and to do my, like, get my clean, like my teeth cleaned. And I just haven't booked in and I haven't made the time, because it's one of those things, like, if it's not broken, then like, why do I need to go and get it checked? But obviously, something as simple as a dentist checkup is so important for your health and well-being. But if you're like me, something that gets pushed aside until there is something that is broken or until I have a pain. Or for example, I need to book in my car to get a service, and it's just in the back of my mind constantly. Every time I get in, I think, oh girl, book in the service. Again, it's one of those minor inconveniences that I just can't be bothered being without a car for the morning, or potentially having to pay for any repairs, right? But it's something that is on my mind constantly, because I just keep thinking, I need to book that thing in, I need to do that thing. So what are you avoiding that could be really easily booked in? Why not just quickly book it in, get it over and done with, and then it will be out of your mind for good. The next one is going and getting a yearly checkup at the doctor. Now, of course, I am not a medical practitioner, so if this one doesn't feel good for you, don't do it. But something that I have been trying to do twice yearly, or at least once a year, is getting my bloods done and just going and getting an overall full body checkup at my GP. And the reason for that is, especially for women, with us menstruating and our levels changing a lot, especially things like iron or other deficiencies, this can cause a huge impact on our energy and our health in general. And for me, I thought I was pretty okay. Went and got a blood test done and I was super low on iron. So now I can implement that into my days by eating more red meat. I took an iron supplement for a little while. So again, a really simple tip, but go and get a blood test even if you feel okay, and just check that all of your levels are okay. And then if not, you then have the choice to start taking some vitamins or some supplements that's going to support you in boosting that part of you back up. So the next one is oil pulling and tongue scraping. Now you might think, yuck, gross, but honestly, tongue scraping has been a game changer for me. I suggest that you research how much bacteria sits on the tongue and in the mouth. And when you do that, you will jump on the oil pulling and tongue scraping train with me. So oil pulling is using an oil in your mouth to pull bacteria from your tongue and your gums and your mouth. So I use coconut oil because it's natural and it doesn't taste bad. And all I do is put a spoonful in my mouth. I usually do it before I shower so that while I'm showering, it's just in there. And what you do is you swish it around your mouth for about 15 minutes and then you spit it out. Make sure you put it in the bin, not down your drains, because it can block your drains. And then I use a tongue scraper to pull the excess bacteria from my tongue. Honestly, oil pulling has helped me not get sick as often, and it's also made my teeth naturally whiter. And I have just felt like so much cleaner in my mouth. You know, when you drink coffee, or if you are a smoker, or you have a lot of like flavorsome drinks, like energy drinks, anything like that taste in your mouth, that is gone when you oil pull and tongue scrape. So I highly recommend implementing that. Whether it's in your morning routine or your evening routine, it is a game changer. I just got my little tongue scraper from Amazon, super easy, and it takes 2 seconds. The next one is taping your mouth shut when you sleep. Again, please do your own research. This is just something that I have been trialing. To be fair, I wake up in the morning and it's always on the back of my hand, so I must wipe my mouth when I sleep. But the intention and the thought is there, and I do sleep for most of the night, or at least half of the night, with the tape over my mouth. Again, this is like a topic for another podcast. Do your research into taping your mouth while you sleep, and I know that might sound scary, so you might want to order some specific mouth tape, not just taping it yourself, because it'll be an X, so then you still can breathe on either side of the tape. But there's so many benefits to breathing through your nose. If you want a resource about properly breathing, I would highly recommend the book Breathe. He talks a lot about it in terms of breath work, but you will then start to realize how important it is to breathe through your nose in the day-to-day, but especially while you sleep. So I've been loving doing that lately. It's, if I'm being honest, not something I do every single night just because I forget, but I do notice I feel a lot more rested and a lot more energetic on the days that I have done it the night before. So my next hot girl tip for making 2025 the best year yet is journaling or going to therapy. And I say this with love, but if your form of venting and your outlet is only through your friends and family, I really encourage you to look at an alternative way for a few reasons. First of all, it can be really draining to your friends listening to the same thing over and over and over again. And yes, they are your friends, and yes, they're going to want to hold that space for you, but also it's not their job. They have their own life, and we've all been on the receiving end of that friend that is just complaining and venting and not making any change, and all of your suggestions that you put forward to them, they just kind of like ignore, and you start to build this resentment inside of you that starts to make you not want to hang out with them or see them as often, and you don't want to put that on your friends, right? So that's the first little PSA. But also, your friends are going to be biased. They're going to want the best for you, and most of the time they're going to support you and your beliefs. So if you are complaining about your partner or your job or whatever it is, or something random, they're going to probably give you advice based on what they think you want to hear, or what they think through their limited beliefs and their perception of the world, what they think is the right answer, which you could be like the blind leading the blind, for a lack of better term, and you could both be perpetuating this cycle and this story and this program that actually isn't serving you. Whereas a trained therapist won't have that bias towards you, because they come from a neutral standpoint and they come at it through a professional lens, not a lens that's muggy by being your best friend. If therapy isn't something that you're open to or that you can maybe accommodate at the moment, then journal it out, get it out onto paper once and for all, process how you're feeling and allow that to be your outlet. There's so many free resources on YouTube, or just Google if you literally put in like journal prompts for XYZ, or just do the free flowing journaling, which is literally you writing out anything and everything onto paper. The next one is doing inner child and shadow work. Now, this has been a game changer for me and for a lot of my clients, and it's about processing, imprinting, or trauma and experiences from your childhood or from when you were a child that still play a role in who you are today. And this again is a huge topic for another day, but I think that every single person, even if you think that you had a picture perfect childhood, you need to do inner child work, because inner child work isn't just about what happened to you or what you experienced. It's actually about the imprinting that you took from that. So you might not have experienced childhood trauma, but a teacher may have told you to be quiet in front of the whole entire class, and then you took that imprinting as what you have to share isn't important. What you have to say isn't important. And that could play out in your adult life as being a people pleaser, or not speaking up, or letting people walk all over you. So I think inner child work is honestly vital for every single adult. And in turn, it kind of links together is shadow work, because from that space, it can create shadow wounds, or it doesn't have to be anything to do with your childhood or your inner child, and you may have some shadow wounds and shadow work that needs to be done. So if you don't know where to start, I would highly recommend finding a practitioner that does inner child and shadow work, or finding an online self-paced course that supports you through that. So I actually have a really low ticket inner child and also a shadow work course that you can explore through my website, and you get lifetime access to it. It is something that you can revisit time and time again, and it actually has supporting tools. So it's not just teaching you about these parts of you, but actually showing you how to start reprogramming and recoding that part of you as well. The next one is more time in nature. I think as a society, we have disconnected from the healing aspects of Mother Earth and spending time in nature, and how that is so natural to our essence, but how it is something that is deemed as like a treat now. You know, how much do we adore spending the day in the sun or going to the beach? I'm like, wow, I should do this more often, instead of it just being like a natural thing that we do. So I encourage you to spend more time in nature if you actually want to start feeling better. So put your toes in the earth, spend time under the sun or under the moon. Enjoy the beauty of nature through the flowers and the colors, and even witnessing different insects or different animals. Just spend time being present and allow Mother Earth to recharge you. And my final hot girl tip to making 2025 the best year yet is figuring out who either your higher self is or the next level version of you is. So figuring out who you want to become and then channeling them. So asking yourself every single day, what would she wear? What would she eat? How would she show up? What's her internal dialogue like? What is her actions, her habits? Like all of these things that you can get really clear on for that next level you or that higher self version of you, and then just start implementing that into your daily routine, into who you are now, and slowly you will close the gap between who you are currently and who you want to be, and they will become who you are. So I'm going to leave it there, my loves. There's a lot for you to ponder and process. I would love to know through a DM or a comment, if you're watching this on YouTube, what hot girl tip resonated with you? What are you going to take into this new year? And what things are you trying, or what did you love to try, or what are you excited to try? I cannot wait to see you implementing some of these things and it transforming who you are currently. And if you want to work with me in a one-on-one capacity, please visit my website. I have a range of one-off offers, whether that be one-on-one online or in person, whether that be a class, an online course, or something in between. I would love to work with you and support you in becoming a happier, healthier, and more energetic version of you. Thank you again for tuning in to A Touch of Clarity podcast. So grateful you are here, and I will catch you in next week's episode.